Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Alliance's webinar series. Today is Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. Today's webinar is the Tres Fridas Project, Reimagining Art Through the Disability Lens, and it is presented by Reveca Torres, Mariam, Paré, and Ahern. My name is Christine Beck, and I am the Organizational Director of the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance. The Alliance is proud to be an investment of the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities. As a reminder, all attendees are in listen-only mode. If you wish to communicate with the presenters, please type in your questions, comments, and contributions using the control panel, and they will be read out loud. Today's webinar is also being recorded, and you'll be able to find a recording on the Alliance's website. So a little bit about the Alliance. The Alliance is a network of advocates and self-advocacy groups around Illinois, and the image on the screen is 15 people, some standing and some sitting, all holding white pieces of paper. This picture represents the most recent graduating class of the Alliance Ambassador Leadership Training Program, and they graduated in October of 2019. Our vision is for self-advocates to work together to get the support we need and to live the life we want in the community. Our mission is to speak up for ourselves and each other while working together to make changes in our communities and in Illinois. Our focus is on empowering people to speak up and speak out about what they want and need, don't want and don't need, to action plan their goals, and to participate in advocacy at the personal, agency, community, and statewide levels. And what do? The Alliance does a lot of things. We support local groups, we work together on important issues, and we offer networking, advocacy, and learning opportunities through our monthly newsletters, our webinars, the Alliance Ambassador Leadership Program, and the Training Institute. And the image on the upper right-hand corner of the screen is a person with pink skin, short brown hair, wearing glasses, and holding papers. And I mentioned that the Alliance supports local groups, and right now the Alliance has 37 member groups. And so let me share where those are located. Up in the northern part of Illinois, we are proud to have member groups in McHenry, Dixon, Zion, and Chicago and the surrounding areas. We have member groups in Alsop, Aurora, Brookfield, Chicago, Chicago Heights, Elgin, Evanston, Evergreen Park, Hanover Park, Homewood, Mount Prospect, Rolling Meadows, and Westmont. In the central part of the state, we have member groups in Rock Island, Pontiac, Galesburg, Tremont, Bloomington, Beardstown, Jacksonville, Decatur, and Monticello. And in the southern part of the state, we have member groups in Alton, Edwardsville, Mattoon, Charleston, and Paris. No matter where you live, no matter where you work, no matter where you play, chances are there's a self-advocate or self-advocacy group near you who are speaking up and speaking out. So now I'm going to turn it over so you can meet the artists and presenters for today's webinar.
Hey, hello everyone. Can everyone hear me? Just wanted to check. Christine, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, great. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to, this is Tara Ahern. I can't see the screen. So Christine, you've got the photo of me up, correct? Or the photo of the three of us?
There is a photo of the three artists.
Okay, great. So again, this is Tara Ahern, Project Director for the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance. And I'm really excited to share with you all today a project that's near and dear to my heart. On the screen, you'll see a photo of three women. On the left, we have Mariam, Paré. In the center, Reveca Torres. And on the right, that's me, Tara Ahern. So we're going to talk to you all about a project called Tres Fridas. And Christine, if you could go to the next slide. Thank you. So that's a photo of me, Tara Ahern. I am a light-skinned woman. I have blonde hair, and I'm wearing a black top and black pants. And like I said, I'm the project director. I've worked at the Alliance for, oh my gosh, I think almost 10 years. And I'm, besides being the project director, I also do activities and other, trainings and such for Center for Independent Futures in Evanston. And I also am a person with a disability. I have muscular dystrophy and I have mental health disabilities as well, so physical and mental health. And I am also a photographer. So in my free time, when I have some, I collaborate on projects like Tres Fridas with Mariam and Reveca. So Reveca, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. Thank you for putting this together. I really appreciate the opportunity to share our project. My name is Reveca Torres. The photo of me, I'm a wheelchair user. I'm also wearing a black top with about chin length hair. And yeah, so I'm an artist and also the founder and director of a nonprofit called Backbones, which helps people with spinal cord injuries kind of get back into their lives and be able to connect with their communities to improve their quality of life. I'm also a co-director to the Real Abilities Film Festival in Chicago that shows films about disability and made by filmmakers with disabilities. And yeah, I think that's kind of a little bit about me, and we've been working on this project with both Tara and Mariam for a number of years, and we'll go into that in a bit.
Hi, I guess this is me. I'm Mariam Paré, and the photo of me, I'm a wheelchair user. I have a spinal cord injury, quadriplegia. I'm also a visual artist. I've been a mouth painting artist for the last 23 years. I advocate for disability issues through my art, and currently I'm a resident artist, or I have a fellowship with University of Illinois Chicago for 2020, and I've been collaborating with Tara and Reveca on this passion project, Tres Fridas, for the last almost 5 years. So I'm always happy to talk about this project and what we envision for it.
This is Reveca again. I am gonna give you a little bit of an overview of what this project is all about. The image is a drawing of an anatomical heart in red, and the text reads, Tres Fridas Project, Reimagining Art Through the Disability Lens, a collaboration between Reveca Torres, Mariam Paré, and Tara Ahern. I think that's what it says, because it's so I connected online and started bonding over art and talking about our personal experience with our disabilities, and also being women and artists with disabilities and what that meant for us. And we really connected also over Frida Kahlo, the Mexican painter. who also is a disabled, or was a disabled woman. And we decided that we would recreate the image Dos Fridas, which is an image of two Fridas sitting next to each other holding hands. And I'll go into more depth about that image in a bit, but that image became the spark to this entire project, and we enjoyed the process so much that we decided to recreate more images, iconic works of art and history, and we recreated them with replacing all the main subjects with people with disabilities, and both ourselves and fellow artists in the Chicago area. We did it through photography, creating our own costumes, and also digital manipulation of the images, and created 16 of those images. So we'll go through those 16 images and how they were impactful and what they meant to us.
Oh, this is me, so sorry. So yeah, so really I don't know what this slide is I'm supposed to say on this slide, but I can say that we chose images from the collective consciousness, like iconic images from mainstream society that a lot of people can relate to, and we took the subject, like Reveca said, and replaced it with a person with a disability in hopes to kind of introduce disability culture in a way that was subtle and that shed light on the similarities and differences we wanted to demystify disability. So I believe this slide shows some of our process. We took some pictures of us getting prepared in the costumes for the photo shoots and whatnot. So I think that's all I can say about that slide.
Yeah, so this is Tara. So yeah, I think that really this project started because all three of us had a connection to Frida Kahlo individually. You know, throughout our lives as disabled women and artists, we have, you know, become very fond of Frida and her journey and her drive and, you know, her fierceness and her, you know, unapologetic expression of who she is through her artwork. And so when Mariam and Reveca met online, they talked about, you know, their love of Frida and also their similarities and the things that they love to do as artists. And so when I came along on the project, I was originally documenting the journey of these two lovely women meeting and then recreating the photo that you will see in a minute. But, you know, again, there's a connection for all of us back to Frida. And on the next slide, the aim of the project. We really wanted to celebrate Chicago artists with disabilities. And as Mariam talked about, starting conversations to demystify the differences that we have and really empower folks to see that we have more alike than we realize, and to hopefully shift views about, you know, perceptions and things that people think of disability, and that we're really not that much different. So part of that is creating an awareness that leads to better access, and, you know, this is where we talk about advocacy and how we change perceptions of people, and we create more opportunities for employment and housing. Those are huge issues facing the disability community. Education as well, being able to travel and just do recreational activities. And then lastly, personal relationships for people with disabilities, which we're going to talk about a little more in the coming slides. So next we have the themes of the project. And of course, you know, Reveca, Mariam, and I, throughout this process, you know, we brought different parts of ourselves to the work. And through that came some various themes that we, reflected on as we were creating, doing the recreation. So you'll see on the screen, some of those are love, confidence, inclusion, friendship, disability rights, sexuality, acceptance, pain, heartache, art, activism, beauty, expression, community, duality, music, and family. And those are just some of the ones that we jotted down off the top of our heads. But again, we really wanted this project to be very interactive so that people could, be inspired and bring to it their own experiences and let us know what they're getting from it. So, obviously these are the things that we found, but we want to hear also from other folks about what they found.
This image, this slide has 3 images. The one on the top left has Mariam, Tara, and I during one of our photo shoots of the girl with the pearl earring, and below that, Mariam is doing photoshopping of herself as Mona Lisa. And on the right, we have a series of photos of like behind the scenes shots from, this is from our exhibition that we had at the Bridgeport Art Center last September. And so as Tara mentioned, we all brought our, different skills to this collaboration. Tara with photography, me with costumes, and Mariam with a painting, the digital painting. But as not just that, we all, every single image was a collaboration between the 3. And although we did part of our process was we picked all these images and we created a point person that would sort of be the director of that photo shoot from beginning to end. But even though we did sort of all distribute those images, we definitely all collaborated on every single one, throughout the whole process. And if we can go on to the next slide, this is the first image that we recreated, Tres Fridas. And on the left is an image from the actual photo shoot, and Mariam and I are sitting in our wheelchairs holding hands, and we're in costumes. Mine was blue and green, a green skirt, and Mariam's is white with flowers on the skirt. And you can see our wheelchairs poking out from under these very large skirts. And on the right, Mariam has recreated the backdrop of the image, the original image, which has 2 exposed hearts, and they are connected with a vein. And Mariam holds some scissors, and I hold like a little picture frame. And so this was our original image, and like we mentioned before, we wanted to be in our chairs. We wanted to make sure that people kind of did a double take and they have seen this image before, and now hopefully seeing it in a different light. The next image is the birth of Venus. And this was our model in this image is a woman holding a cane, and her long hair blowing in the wind, and she's in a seashell. This is the recreation of artist Sandro Botticelli. And so this woman, her name is Genevieve Netley, and she is a woman with a spinal cord injury and a traumatic brain injury. And with this image, we were able to talk about beauty and body positivity and different body types and how they're represented in media, in advertising, and the body positivity movement. And so This was all about embracing our bodies and celebrating the differences between our bodies instead of feeling shameful about them. And so it raised questions of, you know, is everything about a body really worth being positive about? What if your body is in chronic pain? Can you feel positive about such a body? And if you can, do you have to? Can you love some aspects of your body but not others? If you don't, are you a failure somehow? And so, you know, we question, and we would question if these terms we use to define our bodies are too limiting, and also, you know, just celebrate, like I said earlier, celebrating our bodies and being enough just as we are. And this next image is Whistler's Mother by American painter James Whistler. And in the original image, his mother, Anna Whistler, is sitting in a chair, and she's dressed in black and she's wearing a white bonnet. And it is said that Whistler originally painted the model standing up, but with his aging mother, she grew tired of standing, and so she wanted the painting done with her sitting instead. And so on the right is the recreation. It's in a frame, and I am the subject, and you can see my wheelchair again poking through the skirt. I also wear the black skirt and top with a bonnet. And in this image, we really wanted to talk about how our society has a history of institutionalizing people with disabilities and elderly people too, and how as our populations, as the aging population and people with disabilities have a longer life expectancy, how there's a greater need for us to have access in our homes and to be able to live independently in our own communities in our home. This next image is Rosie the Riveter. On the left is an image of a behind the scenes image of when Tara was photographing me. For this, I wear a blue denim shirt, button-up shirt, and blue jeans, and a head wrap that is red with polka dots and red lipstick. And this is on the right side. It has been recreated by Mariam into looking into like the original poster from 1942. And this poster was originally part of, you know, a lot of ads that were of women working during that era. Women were getting invited to become part of the workforce during the wartime efforts, and so it is seen as a symbol of like the rise of feminism. So in this image, what really spoke to us was this call for people to employment, and people with disabilities have a complicated history with employment. You know, we have a very large percentage of unemployment rates among people with disabilities, and there's many barriers such as discrimination. There's systemic issues related to maintaining government health care benefits, to transportation, when employers are not flexible, and just supports and supports in the workplace, and ongoing stereotypes about people with disabilities. And then also many people don't know, but about sheltered workshops for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and also the sub minimum.
Oh, so sorry.
Okay. And also like sub minimum wage for people with disabilities, where they're not even paid the minimum wage, and how people have, or how companies have gotten around that. And continue to do that. This is the dance lesson, and on the left are images of Mariam and Tara in white tutus. Mariam sits in her wheelchair facing Tara, and Tara facing Mariam, and they stand in front of a green screen. Next to that is an image of me with a white tutu in my wheelchair and a wrap around my shoulders, and my elbow on my knee, and just kind of looking down. And on the right, the recreation is 3 dancers that are what seems to be preparing for a dance lesson or at the end of a dance lesson. And it's an oil on canvas painting from 1879. And so they are, warming up in the studio, ready to dance. And in this image, we were able to explore movement and our abilities and the way that our bodies interact with the world, the way that we move, has a certain unique aesthetic of its own. And so being proud of that and finding beauty in these movements that maybe are not always considered technically perfect, and how dance can be storytelling as well. And so we really had fun with this image, wearing tutus, and we were twirling around and just moving as when we did our photo shoot. So this was a fun one. And I will hand it off to Mariam.
Sure. So as we look at this slide of Mona Lisa, on the left is, you can see Leonardo da Vinci's famous Mona Lisa. This painting is iconic. It's been known around the world for many reasons. And so on the right of that slide, I just want to mention, if those viewing haven't noticed before, that when we were exhibiting these images, we always put the original of the painting smaller next to our recreation. And then, so if you can see in that photo, there's the smaller picture is the original Mona Lisa. And so our recreation is the bigger one. And you'll see some description, some words below the original. And when we exhibit, I don't think we've mentioned before that when we were exhibiting this collection of paintings, we always provided the viewers a little bit of background information about the original work, and then again about the issues that we're discussing now. So it really helped inform the viewers of what we were trying to do. I just wanted to mention that before we continued. So if you, as you looked at these slides, were wondering what the little images were and why we present them that way. So when we recreated Mona Lisa, with this image, we were discussing how, disability has always been part of the human condition, yet throughout history, people with disabilities haven't always been active participants in the creating of that art and culture, and we didn't typically decide how we would be portrayed in art, nor often participate in the creation of the art which our bodies appeared. And instead, artists and authors used disabilities to convey ideas about evil and suffering and grace and human nature, and it really reinforced stereotypes about disability. So our version of Mona Lisa offers an altered history to the viewers, where representations of disability are just as valuable and beautiful as those of the able-biased. So what if Mona Lisa was in a wheelchair? And what if she was still considered beautiful sitting there in a wheelchair? We subtly show the joystick of my wheelchair. So it's just a little visual cue where the painting looks normal, it looks traditional. So that's what we're talking about when we're saying introducing artifacts of disability and disability culture in a subtle way. So each one of these images just subtly, reimagines these images for people. So the next slide, we did The Old Guitarist by Pablo Picasso, which is one of my favorite paintings. It's a painting of Pablo Picasso did in his blue period, and it's of a blind musician, and he's cradling a guitar in his lap, and he used a model, a local artist. His name is Tommy Carroll, and he is a blind musician, so he was a perfect choice for the model for this image. And this recreation helped us to explore the concepts of tropes. And if you know what tropes are, they are, it's like, it can be defined as like a theme or a metaphor or a visual cue that conveys something in media. So tropes surrounding race and disability, ugliness, or standards of beauty continue to be propagated at the detriment of those that they are about. So for example, people with disabilities are often depicted as infantile or asexual or unable to have children, or they're considered villains in movies, or sometimes even like in inspiration porn and memes nowadays on social media, they can be over sentimentalized. So and if you know what inspiration porn, which I should probably explain if you don't, is the portrayal of people with disabilities as inspiration solely or part on the basis of their disability. So they're just inspiring just because they're disabled. And this concept does not really celebrate people with disabilities, but instead incites pity or guilt aimed at motivating people to try harder or do more because it could always be worse, or to feel better about their lives. So this was personally one of my favorite recreations in the collection that we have. Okay, so we can move on to the next slide. So we did, pardon me, my voice is so coarse. Renee Magritte did the painting The Lovers 2 in 1928. So we recreated this image. On the right, you will see our subject is an interabled married couple, Bob Ness, who's a filmmaker, and he uses a wheelchair, and Bridget Ness, and who is an able-bodied woman, and they are in an interabled relationship in Oak Park, Illinois. And we chose this image to discuss interabled relationships and how many people express doubts about the capacity of adults with disabilities to become lovers and parents and friends. And many non-disabled people may not be able to believe that people with disabilities can be fulfilling partners in a loving adult relationship, that somehow they are incapable or unworthy. And these are some of the issues that people with disabilities still face with trying to be seen as equals in society today. And there's even the opposite of the negative feelings about people with disabilities being a partner. There's also many see able-bodied partners as a caregiver or as a saint, when in fact it's just two humans in an equal relationship, and that every relationship involves giving care, and that care comes in many different forms and reciprocity. So then the next slide, we did Begging for Change, which is actually, it's a stenciled graffiti art. This is graffiti art that was stenciled in a railway station in Melbourne, Australia in 2004 by the artist Meek, who is a notable street artist. He does stencil graffiti. And he chose to do the original work that you see on the left. He sprayed this in a railway station in Australia to engage the public who in their daily commute would pass by this, and they would pass by homeless people and they would pass by homeless and symbolically disenfranchised people every day. So the text on the homeless man's sign reads, "Keep your coins, I want change," you know, which suggests a more altruistic plight than the individual homeless. So our recreated version, we wanted to bring light that there are inadequate supports in education and healthcare and employment opportunities and housing, and that, you know, poverty and disability reaches so many people. And so without affordable housing and accessible housing in the community, many are at risk of institutionalization or homelessness. And when we chose the subjects for a lot of these images, we chose them and kind of matched them to their issues. For instance, my friend Mark Carpenter, who's the quadriplegic man who's the model of this image, he has a spinal cord injury. He now lives in a nursing home due to lack of housing and being on public aid and not being able to afford accessible housing. So we chose him as the subject for this image to really drive home, and we told his story in the description of the image so people would understand the importance of providing and expanding housing for people with disabilities. So we can move on to the next slide. Now this is the iconic John Lennon and Yoko Ono cover of the Rolling Stones by Annie Leibovitz, recreated by myself and my partner of 10 years, Jonathan Sexton, are the models in our recreation. And we chose this image to recreate because, well, we wanted to choose some paintings, we wanted to choose some images that were from print media too, so we thought this Rolling Stone cover of possibly the two most famous and photographed married couple in music history, to illustrate, again, interabled relationships. And I had a quote under this image when we were exhibiting it that drove home what we wanted people to learn about this. And the quote was from me. And I said, "In an age when interracial and interfaith marriages are common, it seems odd that romances like ours still leave people perplexed and awestruck. I want to live in a society where relationships like mine are not seen as unusual." Tara?
Okay. Yeah. So we're on our next image. We've got The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci. This is a pretty iconic and famous, mural. So most people have seen it before. It's from the 15th century, and it is actually, the original is in Milan, Italy now. The painting represents the scene of the Last Supper of Jesus with his apostles, which is written in the Gospel of John in the Bible. So in the photo, Leonardo da Vinci is depicting the reaction given by each apostle when Jesus says that one of them will betray him. All of these 12 apostles have a different reaction, and you can see, in the original, there's shock and anger. So unfortunately, the original has been pretty damaged, but it still is really one of the most recognizable paintings in the world. And so when we decided to recreate it, you can see on the left, there's a photo, that's me on the left, taking with my camera, shooting the recreation. And so we have all different kinds of people with disabilities. And this specific painting has been recreated many times in our history, but this is really I think the first time that people have done it featuring people with different types of disabilities. So some of the disabilities that were represented in this photo are traumatic brain injury, cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, amputee, blindness, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, achondroplasia, spinal cord injury, and several others. And this was a great way for us to explore diversity and inclusion. And I think, when we talk about disability and inclusion, it's, I think we're sort of a broken record in the disability community, right? It makes sense to us. 1 in 4 people have a disability. Everyone on planet Earth knows someone with a disability. And this is a minority group that you can join at any time. And yet, with all of that said, people with disabilities still face so many barriers to exclusion, like Reveca and Mariam discussed before. So, we really wanted to, again, just showcase the different ranges of disabilities, and that even within our community, sometimes it can be hard to reach out across disability types. I think when people have physical disabilities, you're not necessarily, hanging out with people with, like blindness, or the people that are deaf. Or I think sometimes there's a lot of challenges when we organize around disability issues. And so this really was such a way for us to learn more about each other too, and just to celebrate all the things that make us us. Okay. So the next one we have is The Girl with the Pearl Earring, which is a personal favorite of mine. This is an oil painting, and the original is an oil painting on canvas by a Dutch artist called Johan Vermeer around 1665. And it shows a woman with, she's dressed in a gold shroud on her shoulders, and then she has a blue and yellow turban kind of wrapped around her head. And the yellow part of it kind of looks like a ponytail. And so this one was really interesting to us. We wanted to create a different story for the viewers, that people that were interacting with our art. And so in this story, we see Rena, who's an incredible woman with a craniofacial difference, challenging concepts of beauty. And, people with disabilities vacillate between experiences of feeling like we're living in a fishbowl one minute, where people are, kind of interacting with us in the public and maybe staring or pointing or just curious. And sometimes that's, you just want to live your life, and, you just want to be normal. And then at other times, it's almost like we're invisible, right? And so those two experiences are really different. And through this work, we wanted to really talk about what it is that we see, and what do we determine as beautiful, and how do we, challenge those perceptions of what society is saying. And then also, this one in particular, this artist was kind of famous for painting family portraits. And what we've learned from history is that families often kept people with disabilities hidden from their communities. And they were seen as an embarrassment or a flaw. And we see this, in the city of Chicago, for example. There was a law until the late 70s that, people couldn't be out in the community. It was called the ugly laws, and so people were really shunned and kept at home. And so in the last 30 years, we've come really far. And I think this one in particular challenges people to really live in their truth, and just to be out there and have a voice and share their valuable stories with the world. And then also, again, Rena is a teacher and founder of an organization called Art of Compassion, The Courage to Be Kind. And she also has a children's book out, which is really awesome. Okay, so next we have Two Women Sitting at a Bar by Pablo Picasso. So on the left, you have an image of a green background, and then there's me on the left. I'm wearing a blue tube dress, and then Reveca is on the right, sitting in her wheelchair. So we are bellied up to our homemade bar. We've got a wine glass there, and this is just a photo that we took as, you know, just kind of like a candid shot. So Reveca and I are laughing about something. And then on the right, you have the recreation. So this one was really interesting, especially for me, because in the original, if you can see on the right, the photo box on the right, there's that little square, like Mariam mentioned, of the original portrait. And you can kind of see that the woman's body is making like an S shape, right? And so this one was challenging because I have rods in my back and I can't do that. Physically, it was really hard. And so, you know, I think contorting our bodies and getting into these poses was really interesting, and it kind of helped me reflect on, you know, my own body. And when I first saw this one, I was very insecure about it. I didn't really like how I looked, and I feel like you can see my disabilities very visibly. And over time, I really sat with that and thought, why is it that that's upsetting to me? You know, is that society's telling me what is good and not good, or is that what I really think? And to me, those scars make me who I am, right? And they tell a story of what I've been through and what I've overcome. And so, you know, I think that this one in particular represents friendship and having quality friendships that you can, you know, rely on over time. I would say that it also, you know, it is reflective of Picasso's blue period, which Mariam mentioned for the blind guitarist, and that mental health is something that we don't always perceive of as disability, but it is in fact having mental health challenges and with mental health experience is a disability, and lots of people suffer from mental health conditions. So that was something that we really wanted to discuss as well. Okay, we're running low on time, so I'm going to try to speed it up a little. The next one we have is Christina's World, which was created by Andrew Wyeth in 1948. And the woman in the painting is said to have had a form of muscular dystrophy, and that's actually my disability. So I have muscular dystrophy as well. And it is said that he saw her crawling across the field while watching from a window, and that was what inspired him. So this one was really emotional for me as well. I know I talked a little bit just a minute ago about the positioning of getting your body into, you know, pose, and it was very hard. And there's some video footage of me during this, you know, particular recreation of just having all the feelings. So again, this one really was an internal struggle, but I think it was a great experience to be able to kind of reflect on that, right? Okay, so the next one we have is Mother Holding a Child in Her Arms by Mary Cassatt, who was a painter in the late 1800s. And Mary Cassatt painted a lot of images about the social and private lives of women, particularly the emphasis on the bond between a mother and a child. This is really a huge source of inspiration for her. So on the very left, we have an image of Reveca with a tripod camera on her wheelchair, and she's filming the setup. In the center, we have our models. We have Lewin, who is a adorable kid. He has Prader-Willi syndrome, which is a intellectual developmental disability. And then his mom, Jen, is seated in a chair and she's looking at him. So this one was really exciting for us to do. We wanted to explore motherhood and being a parent of a child with disabilities, or being a parent and having disabilities, or even being a parent having disabilities and having a child with disabilities. So there's all kinds of options here, right? And so, you know, this was a really, again, things that we want to honor, that our parents, you know, Reveca, Mariam, and I, we talked a lot about our experiences and how our parents were really influential and supported us through, you know, feelings of isolation and really creating conversations about how they dealt with that in a time where the internet wasn't, you know, just there at any time to find out the answer to a question, and you know, how our parents helped us through that, and then also how new moms, younger moms, are kind of working through that, and then also people with disabilities who want to have children. That's something that has been really politicized, and you know, lots of folks are dealing with a lot of judgment and struggles trying to have children or adopt children. So that was a really interesting one. And then last we have a recreation, and this is a photo of Frida Kahlo. So actually we've now come to learn that we're not actually sure if that is Frida in the photo. We have gotten some conflicting reports of whether or not that photo was doctored or kind of like manipulated. But even so, the woman in the image we think of as Frida, who's wearing a white shirt and black pants and looking directly at the camera. So that is the image that I recreated. And this was one of our last photos that we recreated, where we kind of solidified me being the third Frida in the Tres Fridas. And, you know, it was really exciting to challenge that duality and intersectionality that we see in art. And yeah, I think that paying homage to Frida and all that she's done for women artists and, you know, women and men alike, and made it okay. I think she made it okay to display our pains and frustrations openly in such a powerful and evocative way that has, I think, given a lot of artists, disabled or not, the courage to just be themselves. And I think that that's what this project has always been about. So with that said, Mariam, do you want to talk a little bit about the Bridgeport exhibition?
Sure, and I'll be brief. These are some photos from our exhibition space at Bridgeport. It was beautiful. It was, we started at the beginning of the gallery space, and if you see that red line that kind of follows the wall, it kind of led viewers through the exhibition space, through the images, and through, we did some lettering of the words that we had said in the beginning, like community and love, pain, all those topics that and issues we talk about within our project. And also you'll see in the last picture, there's some tutus. We also displayed our costumes and our behind the scenes of our process, and really try to make the whole experience for the viewers so that they got the gist of everything and what the whole experience of our project and the meaning behind everything.
Great. Okay, so then on the press coverage slide, so since we launched, you know, we kind of released the images into the world, we had our exhibition at Bridgeport, and that was incredible. We had a lot of press coverage, so Univision, ABC News, we had features in the Chicago Tribune and in the Daily Herald. And, you know, this has been really exciting for us because really the goal was to share our experience and to share the art with the world. And so we are continuing to tour the exhibition nationally. We're working on booking some other exhibition spaces. Obviously, the pandemic has caused a little bit of a wrinkle, but you know, in terms of what's next, Reveca, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Like Tara said, some of the plans are just sort of wait and see right now, but we did have some, the exhibition tour to Harper College in Palatine, Illinois, and several other educational institutions were interested in us bringing the exhibition And especially because this year, 2020, marks the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So many organizations and educational institutions are using this year to create some awareness and wanted us to be a part of that. But like I said, we're in wait and see right now to see if all of those things will actually happen at the moment. We are working on creating a documentary of the process of, when we started up until the exhibition and some of the touring and all of that. And originally our goal was to make it to La Casa Azul in Mexico, which is Frida Kahlo's studio and home. And if we are able to make that possible, it's a journey that all three of us would love to take together.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate Mariam and Reveca and Tara for sharing about Tres Fridas and in honor of the artists and the art lovers everywhere. This has been wonderful. And so if you would like to connect with the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance, on the screen you have our email, info@selfadvocacyalliance.org. You can check us out at our website at selfadvocacyalliance.org. And you can also find us and like us on Facebook by searching for Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance. And the image on the upper right-hand side of the screen is a person with pink skin, short brown hair, raising the right hand in a fist. The person is wearing a purple shirt with the words "Ask Me About the Alliance" written in white. Again, thank you so much for spending your time with us learning about the Tres Fridas Project. Excuse me. Reimagining art through the disability lens. Be safe, everyone. Stay well. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.